The wind always spoke to Mira. Sometimes it whispered through the trees. Sometimes it whistled across the sharp mountain rocks. But today, it screamed a wild, cold cry rushing down from the clouds above. Mira pulled her old shawl tighter around her shoulders and looked up. The sky over the mountain was dark gray, full of strange, twisting clouds. There had been no storm warning. The sky had just changed. She stood near the edge of a narrow path, high up on the lower side of Grey Rock Mountain. She came here often to collect herbs and dry wood, the kind her sick mother needed to stay warm. Their tiny hut in the village had no heater. Running water. Just a fireplace and an old pot. Life was hard, but Mira never complained. She was 16 now, sharp-eyed and quiet. While the other children in the village had stopped dreaming, Mira still believed that something bigger waited for her, somewhere beyond the peaks, where the sun rose red and bold, but she didn't expect that something bigger to fall out of the sky. There was a loud boom, like thunder had cracked open the earth. The trees shook. Birds flew upward in panic. The sound echoed through the valley like the mountain itself had spoken. Then came the second sound, softer, but strange. A hum, a low, broken hum, like a machine gasping its last breath. Mira's eyes narrowed. She placed her basket on the ground and carefully moved through the trees toward the sound. Her bare feet stepped over roots and stones with ease. She had walked these paths since she was small. Then she saw him. A man lay on the ground near a blackened patch of rock. Smoke rose around him. His clothes were torn and strange silver, like light reflecting off water. Wires hung from one arm. Blood marked the side of his head. Something behind him was buried in the rocks. Metal, a machine, part of a ship. Mira didn't know. But the man was alive. She ran to him without thinking. His skin was pale and warm. He groaned when she touched his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, gently turning his face. His eyes opened halfway blue-gray, confused. Double quotes, "You ... Not part of ... them," he whispered. "What?" "No, I live here, in the village. You fell from the sky." He gave a weak smile. "Lucky you found me then." And then he fainted. It took all of Mira's strength to pull him away from the crash site. She didn't know who he was or what he had done. But she knew the mountains, and she knew someone would come looking. Hunters, soldiers, or worse. Couldn't take him to the village. People would panic. They didn't trust outsiders. And this man clearly came from outside everything. So she took him to the hidden cave above the creek. It was a place her father had shown her long ago, before he disappeared in a winter storm. Inside, the air was dry. She laid the man on a soft patch of moss and lit a fire using sticks and dry leaves. She cleaned the blood from his face with cold stream water. Then, wrapping him in her spare blanket, she sat by the fire and watched him sleep. His body was strange. Not wrong, just different. He had small glowing marks on one wrist. His watch blinked without a screen. His shoes had no laces, no seams. Even broken, they looked powerful. She whispered to herself. "Who are you?" The man woke the next morning. He sat up slowly, holding his side. Mira offered him a cup of warm herb tea. "You're very lucky," she said. "You could have died." He took the tea, nodded once, and sipped it. "Thank you. My name is Darren." Mira blinked. That name sounded like something from a book. "I'm Mira," she replied. He looked around. "Where am I?" "Grey Rock Mountain. The village is down there, but I brought you here instead. People would be scared." He nodded again. "Good choice. If anyone else had found me, I'd be in trouble." "Why? What happened?" Darren sighed. "Something I was testing broke. Apart. The system glitched. I fell. That's all I can say for now." "You're from the sky?" "In a way." Mira sat quietly waiting. Darren studied her. She was small, with dark hair tied back and strong hands made rough from work. But her eyes were full of questions, sharp, clear, not like most mountain folk. "You're smart," he said. She shrugged. "Smart doesn't buy food," he chuckled. "Sometimes it does." They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind calmed a dot, then Darren held up his left hand. A tiny blue light blinked on his wrist. He stared at it, then frowned. "They're coming," he said. "Who?" "The people who want my tech. They'll track the signal." "It's weak now, but not for long." Mira's heart skipped. "Are they dangerous?" "Yes, especially to someone like you." She stood. "Then we have to move you." He smiled. "You're not afraid?" "I live near wild bears and steep cliffs. A few people with guns don't scare me." He looked at her like he'd never met anyone like her before. As the sun set, Mira packed a bag of food and bandages. Darren used a small round tool from his belt to scan the cave. It beeped and showed red lights tracking signals. They had to leave. Before they stepped out, Mira turned to him. "You said someone like me is in danger. What do you mean by that?" Darren gave her a soft, serious look. "Because you saved a stranger, and that might change your life in ways you don't expect." Mira didn't understand, but she would very soon. Mira walked in front, leading Darren along a narrow path through the trees. The sky above was still cloudy, but the wind had calmed. She moved with steady steps, careful not to make too much noise. Darren followed behind her, one hand holding his side where the silver suit was torn. The suit had once looked strong and smooth. Now it had burn marks, open wires, and a dull surface. It didn't glow like before. Even the wristwatch-looking device on Darren's arm was flashing red. "How far? Is this safe place you talked about?" Darren asked, breathing heavily. "Not far," Mira said without turning. "There's an old woodshed near the east ridge. Nobody goes there anymore. The roof is broken, but the ground is dry." Darren nodded. "That will do for now." They kept walking until they reached a wall of thick bushes. Mira pushed them aside, revealing a narrow opening. Beyond it was a small wooden shed, half covered in vines and moss. Inside, Darren sat down with a sigh of relief. Mira placed her basket on the floor and handed him a folded blanket and a bottle of water. "You should rest." "I wish I could," Darren replied, examining the broken parts of his suit. He opened a small chest pocket and pulled out a silver tool. With it, he tapped gently on the glowing watch on his wrist. A blue screen blinked open, faint, full of static. Mira stared in wonder. She had never seen anything like it. "What is that?" Darren gave a small smile. "It's a signal reader. It tells me where I am and what's nearby. Right now it's not working well." "Is it from the sky too?" He chuckled. "Something like that." Mira sat across from him, watching closely. "You're not just any traveler, are you?" Darren didn't answer at first. He ran his hand across the damaged part of his suit. "I'm someone who builds things, machines, systems. I came from far away to test something special. But the test failed. I fell here. If the wrong people find me, they'll try to steal my work and hurt anyone near me. Why are they chasing you?" He looked into her eyes. "Because what I built is powerful. Too powerful for the wrong hands." Later that evening, Darren opened a small box on his belt. Inside was a tiny metal cube no bigger than Mira's fingernail. It floated an inch above his palm and spun slowly, glowing blue. "What is that?" Mira asked, amazed. "My emergency backup AI," Darren replied. "She's called Nira. Watch this." He tapped his watch, and a soft female voice echoed in the shed. "Warning. Core damage detected. Satellite link unavailable. Power at 12%. Darren sighed. "The fall damaged everything. If I don't fix it soon, I won't be able to send a message to my people." People like you? Yes, he said. People who live far above the clouds. Mira's eyes widened. So the stories are true? Cities in the sky? Darren nodded. They're real. You can't see them from here. They float above weather lines, hidden by technology, clean air, tall towers, green energy. Everything different from life down here. Mira looked down at her hands. I've only known dirt, smoke, and empty pots. Darren watched her for a moment. That's going to change. She looked up quickly. What do you mean? He gave a soft smile. You helped me when you didn't have to. You didn't ask for money. You didn't run away. You even put yourself in danger. Mira stayed silent. You've already changed my life, Mira, he continued. If I get out of this, I won't forget what you did. That night, Mira slept. In the corner of the shed. Darren stayed awake, fixing small parts of his suit and trying to boost the signal from his device. He connected wires, reset the cube, and whispered commands to the AI. The shed glowed with soft blue light, shadows. Dancing on the walls. Suddenly, the watch let out a sharp beep. Darren's eyes narrowed. Signal spike detected. Nearby tech signatures found. Probability of contact, 83%. He sat up straighter. That meant someone or something was close. And not friendly. He whispered to the AI. How long before they get here? Unknown. Estimated time, 18 to 24 hours. He looked over at Mira. She was curled up under a thin blanket, sleeping quietly. Her hands were calloused from work. Her face had small smudges of dirt, but her expression was calm. He sighed. She deserves better than this. The next morning, Mira opened her eyes to find Darren cooking something over a small energy flame. It wasn't firewood, just a silver disc glowing with heat. On it, he placed thin dry strips that looked like food. What's that? Sky rations, he said. They don't taste great, but they're full of energy. He broke a piece and gave it to her. She took a bite and made a face. Tastes like old tree bark, he laughed. Told you. After breakfast, Darren showed Mira how to use his scanner. It was a palm-sized circle with a clear center that lit up when pointed at something. It tells you if anything dangerous is near. He explained. Mira turned it toward the trees. The light stayed green. She smiled. It's like a magic stone. Darren nodded. Magic backed by science. Then his watch flashed again. Tracking signal moving toward this location. He stood quickly. They're coming, sooner than we thought. Mira jumped to her feet. What do? We leave now, he said, and we stay off every main path. You said you know the mountain? Like my own hand, he smiled. Then lead the way. The sky above Grey Rock Mountain turned darker as Mira and Darren moved deeper into the forest. The trees grew taller here, their thick branches creating shadows on the forest floor. The air smelled like wet soil and pine. Birds had gone quiet. Checked his scanner. The green light blinked slowly, meaning the area was still safe. We need to keep moving, he said. Mira nodded, but her eyes stayed sharp. This way. She took a turn off the main path and walked toward an area filled with large rocks and fallen logs. There were no straight roads here, just narrow trails hidden beneath the trees. Mira had used these paths since she was a child, gathering firewood, mushrooms, and herbs. Darren followed, but his breathing was slower now. His injury had started hurting again. Mira noticed and stopped near a flat rock. Rest here, she said. Just for a few minutes, he sat down grateful. His face looked pale. I'll be fine, he said. We just can't stay in one place too long. Mira sat beside him. She took a water flask from her bag and gave it to him. Darren drank slowly. He looked up at the gray clouds above. A storm is coming, he said. Mira followed his eyes. It's not a normal storm, is it? He shook his head. No, it's not. Far above the clouds, unseen by normal eyes, a group of small silent drones flew across the sky. Their silver shells glowed faintly as they scanned the land below. They were not friendly. Each drone belonged to a group, known as the Black Signal, a rogue tech group that hunted down crashed machines, broken satellites, and lost scientists. They stole advanced tools and sold them in the black markets between colonies. And now they were searching for Darren. One of the drones beeped. Target signal locked. Back in the forest, Darren slowly opened a small metal box in his bag. Inside was a silver chip, thin as paper, glowing faintly with blue lines. "What's that?" Mira asked. "This is what they want," he said. "A prototype key. It can connect to any system, open gates, unlock ships, activate hidden satellites. I was testing it when something went wrong." "And they want it?" Mira asked. "They'll do anything to get it," he replied. "If it falls into the wrong hands, it could cause chaos." Mira looked at the chip, then at Darren. "Then we have to protect it." By the time the sun started to fall behind the mountains, Mira had led them to a hidden valley. Small waterfalls flowed into a clear pond surrounded by smooth stones. There were caves here, ones not shown on any map. "My father used to bring me here when I was small," she said. "It's quiet, safe." Darren looked around. "You know these mountains better than any satellite ever could." Mira smiled for a moment. Then she turned serious. "Will they come at night?" "Probably," Darren said. "But I can place some early warning sensors." He reached into his suit and pulled out 3 coin-sized devices. He handed one to Mira. "Place these around the area, on trees, rocks, anything. They'll beep if someone gets close." Mira took the devices and moved quickly, placing them as told. She moved like a shadow between the trees. Darren sat down near the pond, testing the signal on his watch. The screen still flickered, but now showed a small circle with a dot in the center. "Power level, 9%. His eye said softly. He sighed. "Just a little longer." That night, the storm arrived. It wasn't loud like thunder. It was quiet, but strange. Blue lightning moved across the clouds, without sound. The wind carried a buzzing noise, like electricity moving through the air. Darren stood outside the cave, staring up. "This is a scanner storm," he said. "They use it to find hidden energy. It looks like nature, but it's not." Mira joined him. "Will they find us?" "I don't know. But we should be ready." She looked at him, her eyes calm. "I'm not afraid." He smiled, tired but impressed. "You're braver than most people I know." Suddenly, a sharp beep came from the small device on Darren's wrist. One of the sensors Mira had placed was flashing red. "They're here," Darren said. Mira grabbed a long stick she had shaped into a spear. She wasn't trained, but she knew how to defend herself. She had hunted wolves before. These new hunters were just another kind of threat. Darren quickly pressed a button on his watch. A blue barrier shimmered for a second in front of the cave, an energy shield. It wouldn't last long, but it would buy them time. Lights moved through the trees, white, cold, and sharp. Drones. Then came the footsteps. 3 people in black suits walked into the clearing, their helmets smooth, voices hidden behind glass masks. Each one carried a strange weapon. One of them pointed to the scanner. "The signal's here," he said. Another spoke, voice flat. "Search the area." Inside the cave, Darren whispered, "We can't fight them directly." Mira looked around. "There's a back tunnel. It leads to the upper cliffs." "Can we climb it?" "Only if we're fast," Darren nodded. "Let's go." They moved through the narrow tunnel, water dripping from the roof, bats flying overhead. Mira moved first, holding the small light Darren gave her. Behind them, they could hear the faint hum of the drones entering the front cave. Once outside, on the cliff, Mira turned back and grabbed a stone. She looked at Darren. "Give me one of those metal things." He handed her another energy sensor. Mira tied it to the stone, then threw it far down into the trees. The red light on the sensor blinked fast and loud. From below, The hunters reacted at once. The signal had moved. They turned and ran toward the sound. Darren stared at Mira in surprise. That was clever. I told you. I know this mountain. They ran into the trees, hearts racing, breath sharp. They had escaped. For now. As they stopped to catch their breath, Darren looked at Mira with quiet respect. You just saved my life again, he said. Mira only smiled. Now we're even. Darren looked up at the sky. The strange storm was fading. The clouds were clearing, he whispered. If I survive this, I'll change your life, Mira. She said nothing, but deep inside, for the first time in years, she believed him. Fog covered the mountain like a thick white blanket. Mira and Darren stood near a narrow ridge, just above the tree line. The sky was pale. The trees below looked like ghost shadows under the morning mist. The air was cold and quiet, too quiet. They will come again, Darren said, adjusting the straps on his damaged suit. Mira nodded. They're machines and trackers. They won't stop. She was holding a small pouch filled with herbs, bandages, and 2 more energy devices Darren had given her. Her long dark hair was tied back, and her sharp eyes scanned the trees below. We'll need to stay ahead of them, Darren said, checking the scanner on his wrist. They'll learn from last night. The next attack will be smarter. Mira looked at him. Then we need to be smarter too. They moved across the cliff slowly, stepping over loose stones and sharp edges. The fog helped hide them, but also made it hard to see. Mira walked ahead, using a stick to test the ground before every step. After half an hour, they reached a hidden spot in the rocks, a small shelter under a ledge. Mira had found it when she was 9, running from a wolf. She used to call it her secret thinking place. We can rest here for a short time, she said. Darren nodded and sat down. His side still hurt, but he said nothing. Instead, he opened the watch screen again. Blue lights blinked slowly. The power is almost gone, he said softly. If I can't recharge it, we'll lose the satellite map. I won't be able to contact my team either. Is there no way to charge it? There is, he replied. But I need sunlight. Real sunlight, above the clouds. Mira looked up at the gray sky. Then we'll find a high place. One where the fog breaks, Darren smiled. You say it like it's easy. It's not easy, she said, but nothing in my life has ever been. Meanwhile, far below the mountain, 3 black-suited hunters stood near the edge of the forest. Their helmets glowed red. One of them bent down and picked up the damaged sensor Mira had used to trick them last night. Clever girl, the leader said. His voice was low and cold. She used your tech against you, Darren, he continued, speaking to no one in particular. You've made friends with a local. Another hunter checked the scanner. The signal's weak now. But it moved northeast. They're heading for higher ground. Then we'll cut them off, the leader said. This time we end it. The hunters vanished into the fog like shadows. Back on the mountain, Mira and Darren kept climbing. The fog was thinner here, and patches of blue sky started to appear. Birds flew across the air again. The air felt fresher. Suddenly, Darren stopped. He pointed ahead. There, that cliff. If we reach it, I might get enough light to charge the device. Mira looked. The cliff was steep, but she knew a way around it. There's a crack in the rocks that leads up, she said. We'll go through that. As they moved forward, something flashed in Mira's mind, a sound, a feeling. She stopped and held out her hand. Wait, she whispered. Darren froze. Mira listened carefully. The wind had changed. She couldn't hear birds anymore. The forest was holding its breath. They're near, she said. Darren checked his scanner. It blinked red. We've been found. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the trees, ZZZRRRK, like metal cutting air. A red light shot past them and hit a rock, burning a hole through it. Run! Mira shouted. They dashed toward the rocky passage. Mira led the way, jumping over stones, sliding under low branches. Behind them, the hunters were getting closer. Another beam shot past them, hitting a tree. Smoke filled the air. Mira and Darren reached the crack in the rocks and climbed through it. It was narrow, but Mira knew every step. She turned back to help Darren. He was slower, still weak from the crash. She grabbed his arm and pulled him up with all her strength. They tumbled onto a flat rock surface near the top. Ahead of them, sunlight finally broke through the clouds. There! Darren gasped. He took off the broken part of his suit and lifted the device from his arm. It was flat, silver, and full of wires. As soon as sunlight hit it, the edges glowed bright blue. "Charging," said the AI voice. But they had no time to celebrate. The hunters had found the lower entrance of the crack. Mira stood up quickly. "You charge it. I'll stop them." "What?" Mira, no. But she was already gone. Mira ran back down toward the crack in the rocks. She grabbed a large stick and pressed one of Darren's devices onto it, an energy trap. She placed it across the narrow passage, hiding behind a fallen stone. Moments later, one of the hunters stepped into the crack. Mira threw a rock to distract him. As he turned, the trap activated. Blue light burst across the rocks, shocking him. He dropped to the ground. Another hunter tried to follow, but slipped. Mira used her stick to push a loose boulder from above. It rolled down, striking the second hunter's leg. He cried out in pain and fell back. The third hunter, the leader, stayed calm. He aimed his weapon and fired. Mira ducked just in time. The blast flew past her head. She crawled through the side gap in the rocks and escaped to the upper level. Darren was waiting, holding the now fully charged device. His eyes widened when he saw her bruised but alive. "I slowed them down," she said, breathing hard. "But they're not done." Darren looked at the device. A green light blinked fast. "I have signal," he said. "My people will hear me." He tapped the screen, sending emergency ping. Now. 10 seconds passed, then 20. Then dash beep. A clear voice came from the watch. "Signal received. Help on the way. ETA, 1 hour." Mira smiled weakly. "We just have to survive one more hour." Darren looked at her, eyes full of respect. "You're more than brave," he said. "You're a warrior." "I'm just a poor girl," Mira replied, "trying to protect a friend." He looked up at the sky, then the galaxy's richest. Man owes a poor girl his life. The sunlight touched the mountain top like golden fire. The clouds had drifted lower now, leaving Mira and Darren above them, high on the cliff. The wind blew sharp and clean, carrying no sound, yet both of them knew silence didn't mean safety. Darren's device blinked green. His signal had been sent. Help was coming, but it wasn't here yet. "We still have time," he said, checking the scanner. "But not much." Mira sat on a nearby rock, watching the path below. "I hurt 2 of them, but they're not gone." Darren nodded. "They'll come harder this time." He stood, breathing slowly, eyes on the device charging from the sun. "I want to tell you something," he said. Mira turned to him, curious. "I didn't just crash by accident," Darren said. "I came here on purpose. I was testing something big. What was it?" He looked serious now. "A new kind of ship. One that travels faster than light without needing a station. It could change the future, connect faraway planets, heal worlds." Mira was silent, but some people like the Black Signal Group want to use it for war, for control. "That's why they're chasing me. If they steal the power core I carry, it could break the galaxy." Mira stood. "And you brought it here?" He smiled. "I didn't plan to crash, I promise." She crossed her arms. "You're a smart man, but also a little foolish." He laughed. "You're not wrong. Down below, the fog started moving again. But this time, it moved with purpose. A hum filled the air. It was soft at first, then louder. The hunters were bringing machines. 3 dark figures walked through the forest, one limping, one holding a rifle with a flashing red light. Behind them floated 2 small hoverbots with scanning lights. The hunter leader raised a hand. They're on the top ridge. Signal is strong. Another hunter growled. We go now? The leader nodded. One last strike. On the ridge, Mira noticed something. Smoke, she said, pointing. Near the west slope. Darren looked. They're burning the forest. She grabbed his arm. No, they're flushing us out. Just then, a loud boom shook the ground. Trees far below burst into flames. Black smoke rose fast. They'll smoke us out and catch us when we run, Mira said. Darren looked around. Unless we don't run. What do you mean? He pointed toward a rocky path. We fight. Mira raised her eyebrows. You? Fight? I brought something with me, Darren said, pulling out a small round device from his bag. It's a mini defense orb. I didn't want to use it unless I had no choice. He tapped it twice, and it unfolded into a floating ball with tiny lights around it. This will help, he said. But only for a few minutes, Mira grinned. Then let's make those minutes count. Together, they moved back toward the edge of the ridge. Mira laid stones and sharp sticks across the narrow trail. Darren placed energy traps and activated the orb. The sky turned gray with smoke dot, then came the first shot zing. A red beam flew past Myra's head. She ducked behind a rock. Darren's orb lit up and shot a blue pulse, striking one of the hoverbots. It exploded in midair. The other bot flew higher and returned fire. The orb dodged and fired again. Second explosion, but the hunters were close now. Mira stood and threw a rock with a trap tied to it. It hit near their feet and flashed crack, throwing one of the hunters backward, but the leader didn't stop. He aimed and fired straight at Darren. The beam hit the rock near him. Darren fell, rolling down the side, but not hurt badly. Mira shouted. Darren, I'm okay, he called back. Keep going. Mira faced the leader. He had removed his helmet. Now his face was thin, sharp, and angry. You're just a mountain girl, he said. You can't stop me. She stood tall. Maybe not. But I can delay you. He stepped forward. Then the mountain itself responded. A loud rumble came from below. RRRRUMMBBB. Mira froze. That's not us. Rocks began to shift. The ground cracked. Birds screamed and flew into the sky. Darren looked up. The fire started a rock slide. A massive wall of stone and earth came crashing down the slope, tearing trees apart. The hunters turned in panic. The leader tried to run, but it was too late. The rock slide swept through the path, covering everything. Mira grabbed onto a thick root and held on tightly. Darren crawled up and reached her just in time. Together they watched as the enemy disappeared under the weight of the mountain. Silence followed. Only the wind remained. Later, when the dust cleared, Mira and Darren sat near a large flat stone. Their faces were dirty, tired, but alive. You saved us, he said. Again, she shook her head. The mountain did, he laughed. Then maybe the mountain is on your side. Mira smiled faintly. It's always watched over me. Darren touched his wrist. Signal is stronger now. My team must be close. Mira didn't say anything. She just looked at the sky. Then for the first time in her life, she saw it. A silver ship, smooth, quiet, and bright, broke through the clouds above like a falling star. It hovered above them. Soft beams of light scanning the ground. A voice echoed from Darren's device. Dr. Darren's signal confirmed. Landing now. Mira stood up slowly. The wind lifted her hair. Her eyes reflected the ship's lights. She whispered, So it's all real. Darren stood beside her. Yes, and it's your time to rise. The ship hovered silently above the rocky ridge, its smooth silver body shining under the morning sun. A soft beam of blue light touched the ground in front of Myra and Darren. Wind swirled around their feet. Leaves danced in the air. Myra stood still, her eyes wide with wonder. She had seen birds fly. She had seen clouds roll like waves. But she had never seen anything like this. Darren smiled beside her. That's my ship. It's beautiful, she whispered. A round door opened. Underneath the ship, and a ramp slid down, soft and quiet. Two figures stepped out, one man, one woman. Both wore clean suits with a symbol on the chest that looked like a glowing tree. The man walked forward first. His voice was firm but kind. "Dr. Darren, are you all right?" "I am now," Darren replied. "Thanks to her." The man looked at Myra, then back at Darren. "Is she the local who helped you?" "She didn't just help me," Darren said. "She saved my life, twice." The woman with him stepped forward. She held a small scanner and waved it gently over Darren's body. "Minor injuries," she said. "Nothing too serious. You'll need rest and hydration." Darren nodded, then turned to Myra. "They're my team. This is Kio and Sarin." Myra gave a small nod. "Hello." Sarin looked at her with soft eyes. "You're brave. Few would do what you've done." Myra shifted nervously. "I only did what was right." "That's more than most," Darren said. "Come with us." Myra stepped back a little. "Me?" "Yes. You deserve to see the world above." She looked down at her torn clothes, her dirty hands. "I don't belong on a ship like that." "You belong wherever you choose to go," Darren replied. "And you've earned this choice." They walked together up the ramp. As Myra stepped inside the ship, she gasped. The floor was smooth and warm under her feet. The walls glowed with soft white light. Strange, beautiful machines hummed gently. Everything was clean. Everything was bright. This is like magic," she said. Darren smiled. "It's just science." "But yes, it feels magical." They led her to a soft seat. The room looked like a garden, with green plants growing along the walls. "Fresh oxygen," Kio explained. "It helps with healing." Myra ran her fingers over a leaf. "It's so alive." Darren touched a small screen on the wall. A floating image of the mountain appeared. "This is where we are. In a few minutes, we'll rise above the clouds." Myra stared at the image. "My home. It looks so small from here." "Everything does when you look from above," Darren said softly. The ship lifted quietly, rising into the sky like a feather on wind. Myra looked out through a large window. The mountain fell away beneath them. Her village was just a tiny shape now. Smoke from the forest fires still floated nearby, but the sky above was clear. She pressed her hand to the glass. "I've never seen the world from up here." "There's more to see," Darren said. "This is just the beginning." Hours passed. Myra was taken to a resting room. There, she washed with warm water and soft towels. A machine dried her clothes and repaired the holes. Her face, once marked by wind and dust, now looked fresh. She came out wearing the same dress, but it felt new. She found Darren in a quiet room filled with stars. A large window showed the endless sky. Tiny lights blinked faraway satellites. "Ships and colonies. Where are we going?" she asked. "To Skyport 11, Darren said. "It's one of the main cities above the clouds." "Do people live there?" "Millions," he said. "With gardens, schools, and floating towers." Myra's mouth fell open slightly. "And I'll go there?" "If you want to," he replied. "You can go back too. No one will stop you." Myra thought for a long moment. "I want to learn," she said finally. "I want to know what you know," Darren smiled. "Then you will." When they arrived at Skyport 11, Myra could barely believe her eyes. The city floated above the earth, resting on powerful anti-gravity rings. Tall towers rose into the sky, covered in glass and green vines. Roads moved on invisible lines. Small ships flew quietly between buildings. People walked in soft clothes, calm and peaceful. The ship landed in a clear dome filled with trees. A group of people waited there, clapping when Darren stepped out. He waved, then turned to Myra. "Everyone, this is Mira. She saved my life." The crowd fell silent, then gave her a soft, respectful clap. Mira blushed, unsure what to do. One woman stepped forward. "She's from the mountains?" "Yes," Darren said. "And she's smarter and braver than most people I've met." Mira was given a small room in the upper floor of a garden tower. The bed was soft. The window showed stars. Every day after that, she studied with teachers who showed her how machines worked, how medicine healed, and how planets were formed. They gave her books that spoke aloud, screens that could draw with her thoughts. She worked hard, listened well, and asked smart questions. Darren often came to visit. One day, as they walked through a glass bridge above the city, he said, "You were born in the dirt, but you carry the mind of someone who can shape the stars." Mira looked at him. "Do you really think so?" He nodded. "I know so." She looked out at the clouds below. The earth was far now, but it still called to her. "I don't want to forget where I came from," she said. "You shouldn't," Darren replied. "And you won't. I'm sending help to your village. Solar power, water filters, food. They won't suffer anymore." Mira's eyes filled with quiet tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you were kind when no one was watching," he said. "That's the kind of person the future needs." Weeks later, Mira stood on a platform near a window, looking out at a sky full of stars. She no longer felt like the poor mountain girl who carried firewood. She felt strong. She felt curious. She felt ready. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Mira stood on the stage inside a tall glass tower. The city of Skyport 11 floated behind her. She wore a soft silver dress, one she had designed herself. Her eyes shone with quiet strength. Before her sat a hall full of people, scientists, explorers, teachers, and leaders. Even the Chancellor of Skyport was present. Cameras hovered silently above, broadcasting the moment across Earth and beyond. Darren sat in the front row, smiling. Mira took a deep breath. Her hands didn't shake now. She wasn't afraid. She began to speak. "I was born in a small village on the side of a mountain. We had no clean water, no books, and no lights at night. We only had stars to guide us." People leaned in to listen. One day I found a man lying near the forest. He was hurt. I had nothing, no machines, no tools, but I helped him anyway. That day changed my life forever. She looked toward Darren. That man was Darren Voss, a man from the stars. A man with knowledge, vision, and kindness. He saw something in me, even when I couldn't see it in myself. The crowd was quiet. Brought me to this place. He gave me a chance. I worked hard. I learned. I dreamed. And now I want to return something. She paused, then continued. There are thousands of girls like me living in the dark, full of dreams, but trapped in silence. I speak for them now. I ask for light. I ask for hope. The room erupted in applause. Tears touched some eyes. Heads nodded. Even the Chancellor stood and clapped. Later that evening, Mira sat on a balcony with Darren. They watched the city glow under the stars. "You were amazing," Darren said softly. "I was speaking from the heart," Mira replied. "You always do." She looked up at the sky. "I want to go back," she said. Darren raised an eyebrow. "Back to the mountain?" "Yes," she said, "but not as the poor girl who gathered wood. I want to return as someone who can change things." Darren nodded slowly. "Then you'll go back with power, with purpose." Mira smiled. Weeks later, a transport ship landed near her old village. The villagers gathered with wide eyes. They had never seen anything like it. Mira stepped out first. She wore simple clothes but held herself with calm grace. Old women whispered her name. Children stared in silence. Then her mother ran forward. Mira. Mira hugged her tight. I missed you, Mama. Her mother touched her face. Is it really you? You look like a light. I've come home, Mira said, and I've brought help. Behind her, engineers stepped out with boxes. Solar panels, water filters, and food packs were carried down. Teachers and medics followed. The village that once lived in darkness lit up that very night. Mira stayed for weeks. She taught children how to read under the open sky. She showed women how to use clean water filters. She helped build a small learning center with books and screens powered by the sun. People listened to her with respect, not because she was rich, but because she had returned. One day, a girl named Lema tugged Mira's sleeve. Miss Mira, she asked, can people like us really go to the stars? Mira knelt beside her and smiled. Yes, she said. All it takes is a heart full of kindness and a mind full of wonder. The girl smiled back. Back at Skyport, Mira created a new foundation with Darren's support. It was called Light Beyond the Hills. Its mission was simple, to find smart and kind young people from poor villages and give them the tools to rise. The foundation built schools, sent learning kits, and trained local teachers. Mira also became a guest teacher at the Skyport Academy. She stood before students from across planets, some from the stars, some from Earth. Her words always touched deeply because they came from truth. I wasn't born special, she once said, but I believed, I tried, and I never gave up. 1 year later, Mira stood at the edge of a launch pad. A new ship waited behind her. It was called the Horizon. And she was going to lead it. Her mission was to visit distant villages across the planet, offer education, medicine, and tools, everything she once needed but never had. Darren stood beside her. You've come far, Mira, he said. She looked at the ship, then at the sky. This is just the beginning. He smiled. You've become more than I ever imagined. Mira touched his hand. No, you gave me a chance. I simply made it grow. As the engines hummed and the countdown began, Mira stood tall. She was not the poor girl anymore. She was a leader, a builder, a dreamer. She was a girl who had touched the stars and brought the stars back to Earth. The ship rose slowly, its light shining across the land. Children watched from the mountains. Old villagers raised their hands in respect. And in the quiet wind, a voice whispered, she came from nothing and became everything.